Assalamu alaikum, my students. Good morning. This is me, د.هاني الحسني, and I'm starting here the course of Semantics, lesson 2. So in the second video, we are trying to go in detail with the issue of referring, denoting, and expressing. So last time, if you still remember what we said in the first video and the 2 slides, we're still talking about the issue of meaning. So in chapter 2 for the book of Paul Kroger, Analyzing Meaning, Introduction to Semantics and Pragmatics, 2018. The point here is that I need to show you how we can look at the meaning. So here we have like some examples, and you can see what do we mean. Like at the beginning in this chapter and the next, we will think about how speakers use language to talk about the world, referring to a particular individual by using expressions such as Abraham Lincoln or my father is one important way in which we talk about the world. And here we will think about what it means to refer or to things in the world and discuss various kinds of expressions that speaker can use to refer to things. When Jones says that he was meeting close friend for dinner, he means his lawyer. So Salamat means thank you in Tagalog. Also Fakat means the right of individual to use and enjoy the property of another. So Frakt, here you can see the meaning, and Salamat, here you can say thank you, and in Malaysian when you say Salamat, it can be like hello or something. When Jones says that he was meeting close friend for dinner, he means his lawyer. So that's the way for looking at the meaning. So then the term of sense, how we can find there is a sense of meaning or not. We also will discuss the ambiguity, and also we'll look at the expressive meaning such as else. So here's the notational semantics vs cognitive semantics. Very important what we call comparison. We will look at the denotation. Here we have mind, we have language, we have word, and this is called semiotic triangle. If we want to discuss something about semiotics, the study of relationship between signs and their meaning. So when you discuss the semiotics, it means like someone who is like listening to silent speaking between two persons. So from the signs, I can get the little meaning. That's the way for the semiotics. To continue up here, what speaker believes about the situation may not match the actual state of the world. So this is a level of truth here. The basic approach we adopt for this book that we link the denotation, like we mentioned here, denotational semantics, to cognitive semantics. Two foundational concepts for the denotational semantics that it relates to native speakers, thoroughly good at judging whether a given sentence would be true in particular situations. So the point that I need to mention to you here is the level of truth for the speaker, and that's what we mean by denotational semantics. I said before, when we say denotation is the explicit meaning and what is behind it, we have here also kind of the referencing or referring expression. An expression normally is some kind of noun phrase which a speaker uses to refer to something. The identity of the referent is determined in different ways for different kinds of referring expressions. A proper name like King Henry, pronoun called Mao Zedong, always refers to some or same individuals. It means it refers to some important people. Sometimes there is unambiguous reference and sometimes there is unambiguous reference. Here we have like camel, octopus, durian, can be some natural or names for species. If I say camel, it can be referred to destination like Arab world. Usually for Arab who lives into or between the Arab Gulf and the Red Sea. So the countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Emirates can be referred as a camel. Octopus, maybe about the ocean. Durian is for the people who live in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. All of them, they love to eat durian. The octopus has 8 tentacles and is quite intelligent. Camels can travel a long distance. So this is the full meaning here when we go in depth or in detail when we read these sentences. Sometimes called indexical. So diacritic elements here called indexical because it refers something in the speech situation itself. So we have to go back and check the situation of the sentence or the speech sentence that we are looking for. Pronoun I refers to current speaker, while you refer to current addressee. That's very important. Remember, third person pronoun can be used with diacritic reference. Who is he? But more often are used anaphorically, like an anaphoric element is one whose reference depends on the reference of another. Like what? If we want to say like here, George as its antecedent, the pronoun he in the sentence is used anaphorically, taking George as antecedent. How? I will show you the example there. Susan refused to marry George because he smokes. So here, the anaphora of using pronoun he. Why? Because what we call the reference is following the name. The name of George, when you have anything that following the name, the proper name, and that proper name followed by a pronoun. So we call this case as anaphora. So anaphorically or anaphora in discourse analysis or in semantics is clearly here. But if I start the sentence by he refused to marry Susan and then I put George, so I can say about it is cataphora because the pronoun precedes the real or proper name. Okay, fine. We have here individual also names. Every boy should respect his mother. Every American male loves football. He watched 3 games last weekend. Okay, so you can find a lot of examples here for anaphora and cataphora. You can find also some common noun. There is kind of here of indefinite descriptions, like showing the noun phrase, the verb phrase. It's not our concern, but our concern to move to 2.4. We noted that when people talk about what a word or a phrase means, they may have in mind either its dictionary definition or its reference in a particular context. So here, in general, when you speak about anything and you have a word or you have a phrase, people will link it to a dictionary meaning directly. And sometimes they can understand the whole context of situation and link it to it. And here we have to say that denotation are context dependent. So it follows the context. Based on the context, I can decide the denotation meaning. This is not so easy to see in the case of proper names because they always refer to the same individuals. Sometimes we have to understand that Lee Kuan Yew, it refers to Singapore. So it can be a phrase like Lee Kuan Yew. If I say Lee Kuan Yew, I have to understand that I shouldn't translate it or keep it in my mind as a personal or individual characteristic, like for one person in the world who looks like Chinese. So I have to link him to Singapore, 1975. In England also, Harold Wilson, and in England, 1989, Margaret Thatcher. So those names, it refers to maybe presidential names or prime minister, as here they mention prime minister names. So the case that you keep in your mind, the addressee. The addressee is what are the names that you are looking for. And this is another example for the denotation. Last year, primarily denotation approach to semantics. This doesn't mean that we are all interested in denotations or that we believe that denotation is all there is to meaning. If meaning was just denotation, then the phrases like those, like here you have, which have no reference in our world. The present king of France, the largest prime number, the diamond as big as the wrist, and the unicorn in the goddess. So if you check the four examples here from A to D, you can find that the present king of France, the largest prime number, the diamond as big, there is no exact name, but we can understand that who is the present king of France right now in 2020, and who is, or what is the largest prime number, and the diamond is in description here, and the unicorn in the garden, this is the exact garden, but we're still unsure about it. That's why it comes up with ambiguity. So ambiguity here, anything that we couldn't really recognize from the sentence, so there is no exact sense. I couldn't decide exactly for what it refers to. So ambiguity here, you can see how the ambiguity can be illustrated to lexical ambiguity and structural ambiguity. If we start with the lexical ambiguity, a boiled egg is hard to eat. So sometimes you can understand that a boiled egg is hard to eat because you couldn't hit it. And sometimes you will analyze it based on what, like here, a sentence which has a single sense may have different truth values. So we try to look at it from the values for the sentence. That's why when you read the farmer always walkers to cross the field for free, but the pull charges. So here you will look at this sentence and you say it would be true at the same time that other reading is false if there is a pull in the field which is aggressive but not financially sophisticated. So here you can read half of the sentence and you can find that it's okay, but in the second part, but the pull charges, you will feel there is something changed. I don't ask you to analyze every single detail, but I'm asking you to check how to understand lexical and structural ambiguity. Later on I will discuss it with you through the slide, but here it's an introduction from the book. Structural ambiguity, you try to illustrate it based on the structure, like look at the word. As here, we have here structural ambiguity. 2 cars were reported stolen by the Groveton police yesterday. So 2 cars were reported stolen, or were reported stolen. Here, you will think about which 2 cars. that's reported to whom, and the license fee for altered dose with the certificate will be $3, and for pets owned by senior citizens who haven't been altered, the fee will be $1.50. So that one needs some explanation and needs your concentration. Why? If we check like here, we have one morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got into my pajamas, I will never know. One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. So this is how they try to separate them. You can see how you can analyze the sentence based on the phrases. So later on I will try to keep it into your mind how we analyze them based on the structure. So this structure, one morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. So we separate the shotting of an elephant and in my pajamas, like you maybe are wearing something or somehow. Okay. Expressive meaning out and oops. So here we have some interjections. Sometimes we say these expressive expressions when we have a situation. So you can say oops or ouch. So it's kind of surprising, or you have a shock moment. That's why you can say or produce these sounds, because you are so talkative person. So here, my dad, he's working like in the police station. So you're trying to give kind of expression quickly here. We have here kind of expressions like independence. When we say the independence here, what do you mean by independence? The addressee might agree with the descriptive content. Like here we have the chair. Peterson is the only real economist on this committee. Loss mentioned tenant, and here we have descriptive. The neighbors have a pet bird. Expressive, the speaker has a negative attitude towards the bird. Non-displaceability. Hockett used the term displacement to refer to the fact that speakers can use human languages to describe events and situations which are separated in space and time from the speech event itself. So we have non-disability. It means the fact that the speaker can use human language to describe events. We're trying to describe events that are separated. Remember this, non-disability. You are trying as a speaker to describe events and situations that are separated, maybe in time or space. So I will read to you this kind of conversation. Last month, I felt sharp pain in my chest, or I will probably feel a lot of pain when the dentist drills my tooth tomorrow. Or the feelings of other people, like, for example, she was in a lot of pain, but when the person says, ouch, it must normally express pain that is or is felt by the speaker at the moment of speaking. So this kind of expression, you can see it easily. We have here immunity, where like you have the challenge or some kind of challenging, like negation, questioning, and challenging are three of the standard. We will look at them for the challenges of immunity. Let's read them here down. I'm not feeling any pain. Are you feeling any pain? So patient here, I just felt a sudden sharp pain. Then that's a lie. I give you a double dose of Novocaine. So the conversation would be like normal here, and the other conversation, not ouch. Ouch can only be interpreted as a theoretical form of the question. If you say ouch, patient, ouch, this is like, that's a lie. It means you are trying to show the pain through the voice. So we don't want to keep talking a lot about it, but I'm showing you these examples. You can skip all of these right away and move to the next one. Here we have a kind of exercise which of the following pairs have the same sense. So you can just look at them, like when we have my eldest sister, you can check here your oldest male offspring, a man who invented the phonograph. You can check here another meaning, like the man who invented the light bulb. So keep it up, find the answers, and here we have for each of the following sentences, state whether or not nominal expression in italics. So you're trying to say something about the expressions in italics used to refer, like Abraham Lincoln was very close to his stepmother. So the phrase stepmother is used to refer to a specific person, namely Sarah Bosch Lincoln. So here, I'm so hungry, I could eat a horse. So now, in these referring expressions, you can tell the meaning. Okay, I could eat a horse, it means it refers that I'm totally hungry, I'm starving. That's the meaning of a horse. I could eat a horse, it means it doesn't mean like I need to eat a horse itself as an animal, but it means I am so hungry, I'm starving. You can continue the others by yourself, like here Susan married the first man who proposed to her. So proposed to her, it means this kind of meaning, and she married the first person who wants to engage with her, not the others who just want to do or to have a relationship with her in general. Proposing means here she married the person who engaged her and introduced himself to her. A truth and inference, here we have a kind of truth level. When we look at each any sentence, we could understand the point of it. To know the meaning of the declarative sentence is to know what the word would have to be like. So I can understand it from some point here when we say to know the meaning of the declarative sentence is to know what the word would have to be like in a sentence. So here, how to sense the level of meaning, or how to understand all these elements, or how to feel that this speaker is really saying the truth. This needs your analysis. So we have here analytic sentences, synthetic sentences, and contradictions. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. So when we talk about it, we need to understand the level of the sentence. Like here, the speaker who commits himself to the truth such as a sentence is making no claim at all about the state of the world, because the truth of the sentence depends only in the meaning or on the meaning of the word. But in that case, why would anyone bother to say such a thing? It is important to not or to know that the use of tautologies is not restricted to politicians. Another example of truth, like when we want to analyze, a woman who held a baby or a pig against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children," and he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life, longing for itself." So when you look at it here, propositions of this type are said to be contradictions. Once again, the speaker who utters a sentence of this type is not making a truth, contradictional, or conditional claim about the state of the world, since there are no conditions under which the sentence can be true. يعني هنا okay, here you can't say something about this sentence. It's not against the truth. Your children are not your children. This means they are still her woman children, but he's trying to bring another example, like they are the sons and daughters of life. So it doesn't matter of the expressions, but the matter here how he used the proposition. And next we need to move towards another word. Like here we have presupposition. What do we mean by presupposition? Supposition, like here, if I'm trying to entail the meaning of another sentence. How this kind of interference يعني انه تدخل شيء في الجملة ممكن يأثر على الجملة. So take some more tea. The March here said to Alice very earnestly. I've had nothing yet. Alice replied in an offended tone, so I can't take more. I can't take more. Here's the point of it. I can't take more. I have had nothing yet. You can see the offended tone. I can't take more here. The presupposition of it, like I don't want to have more. Using the word more in the sense, it looks like as a synonym for additional. The March here implies that Alice has already had some tea, and that this knowledge is part of their common ground. At that point in the conversation, the words or grammatical construction which indicates the presence of presupposition is called trigger. So trigger, you're trying to ask for more, and somehow the presupposed material is not fact. Okay, I don't want to say a lot of things, but how to identify presupposition. So if I want to identify presupposition or entailment, يعني حاجة مدخلة على الحقيقة, we have here example. Notice that all three sentences imply that Vice President has falsified his dental records. يعني دور في تسجيلات أو سجل أسنانه. The Vice President regrets that he falsified his dental records. The Vice President doesn't regret that he falsified his dental records. Does the Vice President regret that he falsified his dental records? So we have three sentences for presupposition. In most cases, if a positive declarative sentence like triggers a certain presupposition, that presupposition will also be triggered by a family of related sentences, which includes negative assertions, questions. If clauses and certain modalities, for example, presupposes that Susan has been dating an Albanian monk, this presupposition is triggered by the word stop. All of the other sentences trigger this same presupposition. So, in the exam, I will ask you a quick question, like what are the questions that I'm trying to show you. Like here we have the sentence. You have to tell me Susan has stopped dating that Albanian monk. Susan hasn't stopped dating that Albanian monk. So has Susan stopped dating that Albanian monk? If Susan has stopped dating that Albanian monk, I might introduce her to my cousin. So what I'm trying here to show you, when I ask a presupposition about presupposition, you have to make some kind of predictions or assumptions. the point here, how you can restructure the sentences and make a lot of examples of one assumption. Like here, we have one assumption. You are trying to ask more questions about the assumption. That's what we call presupposition. So if I say, Susan has stopped dating that Albanian monk, you have to do an alternative against a sentence. Susan hasn't stopped dating. So another sentence, has Susan stopped dating that Albanian monk? If Susan has stopped dating that Albanian monk, I might introduce her to my cousin. Susan may have stopped dating that Albanian monk. So we have here the examples of the presupposition. You can see them, how you can create some sentences for the presupposition. So again, when we have presupposition, we need to make them like this. Definite descriptions, somehow the first sentence, and executive predicates like regret or falsification or doing something against the first sentence. And we have implicative predicates and manage to suppose or try to make kind of how to say impossibility or kind of possibility for the case. Like you can say, can he married or would he married? That's the implicative. Textual predicate like stop and continue, both presuppose. And we have temporal clauses, like when we use clauses are false or clauses are not false. So you can that to check the previous 5 examples. Like here, you are trying to show your awareness if it's there or not, and here you are trying to make a kind of sentence which is with if sentence conditions, and here you are trying to make uncertainty. Here you are defining it by showing the opposite, and here you say the sentence clearly. So that's the way for it. I don't want to continue more here, but we have the conclusion. When we talk about conclusion, we need to understand the principle of meaning of the truth conditions. So the truth conditions, what I'm caring about is presupposition. So from the whole chapter, you can find out the presupposition and read the way of sentences. Here we have relations between proposition and we have presupposition. So read about this one in page number, I think, 49. It's very important exercise to answer it. And next time we will try to move on for another chapter. I will plan for you to do something. And here we have classifying proposition. It's up to you to answer this, but it's important to me to find out how to answer this kind of question. Identify the relationship between the following pairs of proposition, like entailment, paraphrase, contrary, contradictory, independent. You will find them all in the chapter, and here we have a presupposition. It's very important, and presupposition vs entailment. I will try to upload a slide on it later on, but I give you a chance right away to reread the chapter again and again and the previous chapter to understand what do we mean. Thank you very much for listening to that course. I wish next time we can talk more on Zoom for a discussion. Thank you again and see you later.